As we all know, Donald Trump had nothing to do with Project 2025, which must be why half of it's already in place after 10 months of his presidency. I mean, seriously, look at this, 48% done, and just to remind you, there are around 900 pages of that bullshit, and somehow half of it's already reality. But honestly, I doubt that any of you are shocked to hear Trump's been using it as a playbook. So today we're going to look at what he hasn't touched yet so that we know what's coming next. And here's the plan. I'm going to ask AI to break down everything that Trump's already done from Project 2025, then ChatGPT is going to tell us what's left and predict his next steps straight from that playbook. But before we get into that, do me a quick favor. Be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't yet. Also, share this video so that it can reach more people. I know it sounds like every YouTuber says this, but seriously, it makes a huge difference. So take a second before we get into the chat. And here we are. ChatGPT's already done the research, so it's fully up to date. But now let's get to the first question. First, as always, it has to be clear, straightforward, unbiased, call things as they are, with no sugarcoating or fluff and none of that. Now, I want to know exactly what Trump's done recently from Project 2025. The last video about it was back in May, so I'm going to ask it to only break down his moves starting from that month. All right, we're all set. Now let's see what it says. Since May 2025, Trump has moved fast and hard to bring major pieces of Project 2025 to life. Let's be clear, this isn't quiet governing, it's a political wrecking ball. First, he went after the IRS. Backed by his allies in Congress, Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill in July, which wiped out nearly all the IRS enforcement funding from Biden's Inflation Reduction Act. Layoffs followed. Over 1,400 Treasury employees were let go in October alone, and thousands more were pushed out over the summer. Project 2025 calls for crippling agencies it deems weaponized, and this hit that goal head on. Then came the environmental cuts. In October, Trump approved the Ambler Mining Road in Alaska, a massive 200-mile industrial corridor into protected land. It followed an earlier move to shutter the EPA's Office of Environmental Justice. 29 staffers were formally terminated in August after a summer-long dismantling. Project 2025 dismisses climate and equity programs as ideological excess. Trump treated them like dead weight. Immigration was another blitz. He ended temporary protected status for Honduras and Nicaragua, opened massive tent camps, federalized National Guard units to support ICE, and pushed new fees to deter asylum claims. That's ripped straight from Project 2025, which calls for an enforcement-only system and treats asylum as a loophole to shut down. Trump also escalated his push to control the federal workforce. 2 executive orders, in March and August, strip collective bargaining rights from most unionized federal employees. Together, they cover over 80% of the unionized civil service. The bigger Schedule F purge hasn't expanded since January, but the foundation is laid. Bottom line, since May, Trump's been hammering away at the Project 2025 playbook. The work is raw, aggressive, and often blunt, but it's not chaos. It's a methodical reshaping of the government to match the vision of the plan. It feels like it would be easier to list what Trump's done that isn't from the project, but still, why rush it so much? I mean, he's already done half of it in only 10 months. The simple answer is that they could lose the midterms, and he wouldn't have this kind of power anymore. But I just want to ask ChatGPT that question, because maybe there are other reasons. I mean, who knows? So let's see what it says. Trump isn't rushing because he has to. He's rushing because he wants to lock things in while he still can. He knows how Washington works. He saw how much resistance he got in his first term, not just from Democrats, but from judges, civil servants, even Republicans. This time, he's not wasting energy asking for permission. He's using speed as a strategy. By moving fast, he's overwhelming opposition. Courts can't keep up with the flood of executive orders. Agencies don't have time to organize internal pushback. Congress is largely under Republican control, and public attention is scattered. One headline disappears under the next. That chaos works in his favor. There's also the reality that 2026 midterms could flip the House or Senate. If that happens, it could slow him down. So he's front-loading everything he can do through executive power now. Immigration raids, agency purges, oil drilling, civil service changes, all while he holds the pen. Another big reason? He wants to make these changes irreversible. The deeper he roots his agenda into the system, firing people, changing rules, moving money, the harder it is for the next president to undo it. He's playing a long game disguised as a sprint. And honestly, it's about legacy. Project 2025 gives him a blueprint to be more than just the comeback guy. If he pulls it off, he won't just be a two-term president. He'll be the one who reshaped how the federal government works from top to bottom. That's the mission, and he's not wasting a single month. Alright, got it. Well, by the way, how long do you think that it would take for the next president to roll back all of that? You know, assuming that it's not somebody like JD Vance, of course. Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments below. Up next, I'm going to ask AI to predict Donald Trump's next steps based on the Project 2025 playbook. It shouldn't be stuff that's already in motion, but rather the areas that he hasn't even touched yet. We're about to find out in a moment, but before we move on, be sure to hit that like button if you're enjoying this video. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to the channel. You can also share this video with your friends or on your socials in order to help it reach more people, or hit the thanks button below the video to support the channel directly. Any of those would mean a lot. And by the way, if you enjoy these AI predictions, there's an entire playlist waiting for you. You'll find videos where AI predicts Trump's moves in 2026, how a Gavin Newsom or JD Vance presidency might look, predictions for the 2026 midterms, the 2028 election, and even the recent one where I asked ChatGPT what would happen if the Epstein files were fully released, and what would that mean for Trump. I'm pretty sure you'll get hooked for hours, so I'll leave that playlist link in the description. Alright, with all of that out of the way, let's get to the final question. Now I want ChatGPT to predict Donald Trump's next steps based on what's in the project. So, let's see what to expect, and here's the answer. Here are the most likely next steps Trump may take if he continues following the Project 2025 playbook, based on what he hasn't touched yet as of October 22, 2025. These aren't distant hypotheticals, they're specific policies detailed in the blueprint that remain either fully untouched or only partially in motion. First, the dismantling of federal departments. Trump has made noise about eliminating entire agencies, but so far, he hasn't pulled the trigger. Homeland Security is still intact. Customs and Border Protection, ICE, and USCIS continue to operate separately under the DHS umbrella. Project 2025 recommends consolidating those into a single border security agency and stripping out any non-enforcement functions. Trump has federalized state guard units and cut back certain DHS offices, but that's not the full overhaul. If Republicans hold or expand their grip on Congress in 2026, he's likely to revive legislative efforts to restructure or dismantle the department. The same applies to the Department of Education. While an executive order to wind it down was signed in March, the agency remains in operation. The next move may involve breaking up its functions and shifting power to states, especially if Congress is cooperative. Another target still largely untouched is the Federal Reserve. Project 2025 calls for ending its dual mandate, removing its obligation to maximize employment, and instead tying the dollar to a commodity like gold. So far, Trump has floated loyalty tests and tried to remove a sitting Fed governor, but Chair Jerome Powell is still in place and the institution remains independent. That could change quickly if inflation returns or the Fed resists White House demands. Trump might try to fire Powell outright and replace him with someone ideologically aligned, pushing for direct political control of interest rate policy. A shift like that would spark legal and market chaos, but it's right there in the plan. Abortion is another front where Project 2025 has laid out far-reaching goals, and Trump has so far stopped short of implementing them. He hasn't endorsed a national abortion ban and hasn't tried to roll back FDA approval of abortion pills. But the blueprint outlines several federal levers he could still pull. It proposes cutting off Title X funding to any organization that even refers patients to abortion providers, not just those that perform abortions. Trump hasn't done that yet. He could also restrict abortion access through narrower channels, like denying coverage under Medicaid, federal employee health plans, and military insurance, TRICARE. None of that requires new laws. It can be done through administrative rules. If conservative allies turn up the pressure, or if Republicans expand their power in 2026, Trump may take these steps to satisfy the base without touching national bans. Culturally, Trump has already taken a scalpel to LGBTQ rights by redefining sex in federal policy as strictly biological under Title IX. But Project 2025 goes much further. It calls for erasing LGBTQ status from all government data and eliminating federal funding for any entity that affirms gender identity. Hospitals could lose HHS grants, and federally funded educators could be barred from discussing LGBTQ topics entirely. Trump hasn't crossed those lines yet, but if he follows the plan, new conscience exemptions could be added to let providers deny care based on religious belief. That would effectively legalize federal discrimination under the guise of free speech and religious liberty. In short, Trump has already bulldozed major pieces of the administrative state, weakening enforcement, centralizing power, and gutting protections. But the structural heart of Project 2025, remaking the government to serve the presidency above all else, is still unfinished. If he gets the political space to do it, what comes next won't be just aggressive. It will be transformational, permanent, and aimed at locking in executive control for years to come. Alright, well, that's pretty much it. Some people say that AI is always fear-mongering, but do you guys have your eyes open? Or does anyone really think they just stopped halfway and forgot about Project 2025? We'll see if these predictions turn out to be accurate, but for now, let me know if you agree with what AI said today. And don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit that thanks button below the video if you want to support me and the channel directly. After that, don't go anywhere, because I've got another video for you where I asked AI to predict what would happen to Donald Trump if the Epstein files were fully released. All of them unredacted 100%. And trust me, ChatGPT's prediction in that one is absolutely wild. Alright, thanks for watching. Click on that pop-up, because I'm already there waiting just for you.